Woo, about to do a mid fade. Mid fade, 4 on top, 4 against the grain, 4 guard against the grain. Not much more to it, but to do it, just gotta drag your clipper across the head. Like, it's not that hard, bro. Just drag the clipper smooth against the head. You don't really gotta worry about cutting the sides of the head, because since it's a fade, that's not gonna be cut with the 4. It's gonna be cut lower than the 4. So just focus on the top of the head for now and make sure it's even. You know, you look at everything, keep combing it. Just make sure everything's even. That's the biggest thing you could mess up. It's just not making sure it's even. And please keep in mind, this is my first time, so I'm gonna sound boring, I'm gonna sound weird, and I'm gonna sound different, but I've been cutting hair for 4.5 years now, so it'll look like I know what I'm doing on that end. Maybe not the speaking part. Now we about to do the two guard open, so 2.5. And I'm going right to the top of the, what's that word? Parietal ridge. I'm going at the parietal ridge. I'm scooping out the top. I'm taking my hand away. I'm not going straight up. Or I'm going straight up to cut all the hair, but I'm stopping to make a line, a guideline at the parietal ridge of the hair. I don't want to go too high. Now I'm pretty sure I put a 3 guard on to fade that out, because the top's a 4. I just use a 2.5. What's in between? A 3 and a 3.5. So just play around with the levers and play around with the guards. Not every haircut is set in stone the same thing, so you gotta just work with what you got. And remember, you can't put the hair back, so always start bigger if you don't know what you're doing. Now I'm starting my first guideline. I always feel for that occipital bone in the back, and I go right under it. And then on this side, towards the front of the head, I always, for a mid fade, I look for that middle point right below the C cup, right in the middle of the C cup. I look for that middle point. And the reason why I set in my guideline with the clippers and not the trimmers is because back then when I first started, it was a lot harder to take out my guidelines with the trimmer. Now some barbers will say, hey, you just need better skills. For me, it's like, I don't want to waste my time on that. So I set it with the clipper closed, and I cut it. I cut all the hairs under it with the trimmer. It's still gonna be bald. And then, as you'll see coming up, we're gonna come back with the shaver to make it real bald. But there's techniques to the shaver. I didn't start using the shaver until about 3. Well, I used it like the first year, but it really came out real bad. So I didn't start using it again until like 3 years in, when I learned how to actually do it, because it's not just shaving all the sides like I just did here. It's really about, it's another guideline. Using the shavers, foil shavers, is another guideline. So you really got to be careful with how high you go, and you'll see here what I do. I try to set a guideline for my shavers, a pinky width under my original guideline I just made. Literally a pinky width, because you want to give yourself room to fade it. I used to have the Wall or the Andis. No, it was the Andis. They did the thing for a while. They break down real quick. This Babyliss feels like I can throw it across the wall and they won't break. So this the future right here. See, I start right there and I make sure I don't go too high. I really go right above the ear. If you want to start there to gauge your guideline, go ahead. I go right above the ear, and then look how big the distances from that line to the other first guideline. It's about a pinky, maybe a thumb. I don't know, but it's just enough room for me to flick the line. Now here I go with the fading. I'll fade it as if I'm using a clipper. I'm literally just fading, and now look, I'm going down and up. Now I recommend to go down first because it takes some hair off. Going up takes more hair off. You want to go down first to have less room for error. So you really want to just try. It's trial and error with the fading. I mean, I'm used to it, so I can just do it without thinking. But for anybody who doesn't know, hit that line downwards and then go up if you have to. But remember, when you go up, it's a flick out. You don't want to drag flat across the scalp. You want to just tap, tap, tap to make the line go away. Now we're about to do the 1.5, the best guard in the world. This guard right here, I always go to the corner, that C cup, where that C cup starts. I go right there a little higher. That's where my guideline is for almost every fade. It's always that wide with the 1.5. And with a fade that this short, I usually, like with longer hair, I'll take separate steps. But with this, since it's so short, I'll just open the guard up, open the lever up, and it's not a 2, but it's like 1.5, 2, 1.5 open, and you want to flick that out to fade it back into that 2.5 you did earlier that you faded into the 4. Remember, this is for shorter hair. If it was long hair, I would just do the 1.5. And yeah, every haircut, it's the same attack method. It's the same goal at the end of the day, but it's not going to be the same exact way. But now we got the 0.5 guard. So I'm really just debulking right now. I don't want to go too bald, because I remember when I first started cutting hair, I would try to do everything bald right away, and you're just leaving yourself no room to make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna raise the fade up, raise the fade up, raise the fade up, and now look what happened. You got us high and tight when he asked for a low taper or something like that. Like, you gotta take it easy, take your steps, slow it down. Think of it like a ladder going downwards. That's how I think of fading. So with this, I just got the 0.5, do a guideline, and then boom, open the lever up, boom, flick that out, and then fade right above it. I mean, just look at the darkness in the fade. That's what I'm looking for. The whole point of a fade, what makes a fade great, is the dark to light transition. It's not about how good your guidelines are. It's about the dark to light transition. Some people don't even fade. Some people don't even use guidelines for their fade. So it's really not about that. You just got to be able to see the dark to light and see what you're working with and know which guard to use when you're doing that. Now, whenever you want to play around, if you're getting a little bit more advanced, I always recommend to use a higher guard first, because if you use that lower guard, if you're not as skilled, you're gonna bring the fade up by accident. So really, really be careful with that stuff. That's why I like to use the 0.5 before I use the open guard. But right now I'm probably using the 1 guard, 1.5, 1. This is the 1 guard, but the, open and close to fade that line between the 0.5 and the 2.5 and the 4. It's all a system. It's all working together. Like, not every fade is the same, but it's always the same concept. I just want that dark to light transition to be smooth. That's the concept. That's my goal. That's what I'm going for. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's got to fit the head. It's got to fit this head shape. Look, now I hit thinning shears. This I got put on when I started working here at the barbershop. This is one of the best methods for this type of hair type right here, because you use the fine tooth side, not the wide tooth side, and you really want to just attack small parts of the fade where it's really dark. And if you use the clipper, you might go too high, you might mess up the fade. So that's what thinning shears are great for, is really just attacking those small areas. It's amazing. Now I got the no guard open. Now remember, I just used the 0.5. So it's like a guideline, but it's not going to be dark because everything else is light already. So it's like a guideline, but not really. You don't want to, if it's not harsh looking, then you're doing something right. Okay, so sure, there's still a line there, but it's easier to get out because of all the debulking and down fading I did before. So you really got to just make sure that you're focused on the dark to light transition, and pay attention to where you keep your hair and your guidelines at, because if you lose your guideline, it's going to be harder to find it, especially for you beginners. Look at me use my corners. I'm using my I'm not using the whole blade. When you fade, especially on a skin fade, you have to use the first 3 teeth of the blade. Like when you're using your corners, if you want to get one spot, think of it like a pencil. Like, your whole clipper is a paintbrush. You want to use a pencil, just tilt the clipper. You gotta use a pencil to get the little spots. You're not gonna paint over a little area with a big paintbrush. So you gotta tilt your clipper, use the corners, and attack those small areas. It's really about just paying attention to the dark to light transition out. I'm gonna repeat that forever, because that's just the basic steps of a fade. Like, the reason why a fade looks good or a fade looks bad is because the dark to light transition is either too fast or not smooth. It's that simple. Now I'm here attacking that last guideline with the trimmer. Now look, when I do this, I know it's not gonna be perfect, but it's about to be done. I'm using the corners, and because I did that work with the open guard, and I forgot to say, you got to play around with the, guard lever halfway, no guard lever closed, no guard lever halfway, and fade downwards, and just play around with those 3 at the bottom, because that's all you need to do. You don't need to do anything else. Sometimes you might hit the shaver, but more than likely you won't have to. Now I'm about to do the shape up. Now you hit it with the cold air blow dryer, brush down. Cold air sets in the moisture, keeps it locked, keeps it firm, so that when you shape it up, it's gonna come out crispy and it's not gonna move. A lot of times I used to shape up and the hair starts moving, and it's hard to shape up when you gotta keep like realigning the hair. I mean, his hair's short, it's gonna be easier, but it's way better when it's just smooth and stiff and it's not going anywhere. Look at the fade, come on now, look at the fade. The fade is there. Now what you gotta do is shape up, bring it home. So what I'm looking at right now is just what's the highest point, what's the lowest point, and where's the middle? Right there, boom. I started the middle, make sure everything's cool. And look, let me tell you this, a lot of barbers won't say this, but my first hairline, anytime I do a hairline, my first draft is the rough draft. And the reason why it's a rough draft is because I go lower than I have to at first. I go lower than I have to. Everybody acts like they're perfect, they're gonna get it right away. That's not me. I'm gonna give myself room to fix it. Look in the mirror, look back at him, do all these things to see where it can be better, because I know that first time I go through it, it's not gonna be perfect. So stop expecting it to be perfect that first time. You understand? So just tap that line. If you're afraid to push him back, then don't. Just make the line, and then eventually you're gonna look back, look at the mirror, look at him. You keep doing triple checks. I mean, right now, this is like a decent hairline for when I first started, but of course we are at a better level now. But this is it right here. I mean, that's a rough draft for me now. Now we look, we brush, we comb, and we see how to make this thing straight and symmetrical across both sides. Now I'm attacking the little spots. And even with the shape up, you can use your corners, use your side. I mean, you want this to be sharp before the razor. A lot of dudes like to make this sharp with the razor. That's extreme skill and talent I am not at yet, and I don't know if I want to be at. I like the trimmer. The trimmer works for me. It's all about what works for you. Now I'm doing the C cup. So I wish I got a better angle here, but one side of his is lighter than the other side, so I run with the lighter side, because if I try to just run with the darker side, it's gonna look lopsided and it's gonna look forced. So yeah, one side may be a little pushed back, but the other side is perfect, which makes both sides look perfect because it's symmetrical. So we're shooting for symmetry, but we're not shooting for a pushback. But if a pushback is needed for symmetrical purposes, it will be done. You understand? That's what good haircuts. That's how good haircuts happen. Now I'm looking at them just to see if it's straight on both sides. I'm looking at both sides as if they're 2 sides. I'm not looking at the hairline as if it's 1. That's what I did a lot when I was younger. You look at the hairline as if it's 1, it looks perfect. Then you look at it, once you start looking at it from like 2 halves, you realize it's not symmetrical. So you gotta look for the symmetry by just looking at it as 1 half and the other half. Now I'm hitting with the Kiss Temptation. This is my go-to spray for now. I might level up with the Tune 45 soon, but we'll see. I have it, I just haven't set it up yet. I love this spray because it is temporary, but it just enhances the cut. I mean, the cut has to be good. You better make sure your cut is good without the enhancements. Once the cut is good with the enhancements, go ahead and use enhancements. But if your cut's not good without enhancements, you ain't got no reason to worry about enhancements. Boom. Enhancements on the other side, you see symmetrical shape up, even on both sides. Look, most barbers, they forget that the corner and the C cups are supposed to line up on both sides too. They only worry about the 2 top hairline corners, but you got to worry about the other corners. You know, both lines should be the same measurements. Both curves should be the same curves. That's what a real haircut, professional haircut, is supposed to look like. Should be symmetrical. Bottom line, symmetrical, perfect contrast, and perfectly shaped with the head. That's what a haircut is, and it should look good natural, period. Ain't no other way around it. That's what a haircut is. Look, it takes a long time. Like I said, I'm 4.5 years into it. It takes some people longer, it takes some people shorter. Like, it's just whatever your pace is, it's okay. Don't be frustrated. It takes time. It takes a lot of practice. I was grateful to have my 2 younger brothers to work on. I used to cut my own hair. So I had a lot of work with that. And look, thank you for listening. This is my first ever YouTube video, Rico Cuts. Thank you for watching. Like this video, share it with your barber friends, your non-barber friends. God bless you, all right? Peace.